typically you put after dot, after the dot. Okay, now Python file handling. So the other programming languages have this feature too, file handling. What does that mean? That means if you have a program, you have an external file, let's say some text file, because text file is the ones that doesn't give much of problems, So the program can read the text file, or there are certain operations you can do. All these read or write, or you can say update. These are some of the operations. So if you have some external file, that you can work with that. So like I said, other languages have the same thing. So let's see how you can do this in Python. So in Python, like I said, you can read, append, write, or create. So create will be like a brand new file. Read will be reading the lines in a file. Append will be putting something to the end, just like we did with a cat command with or some other command with this 2 arrows. Same thing, append. Okay, and the write. Okay, so those we can say mode, what type of mode, and the 2 files that you can work with. One is a text, one is a binary file. Okay, binary files are usually for example, images or some other stuff. The simplest will be the text. Text file. Now we know that text files are a little bit different. You can create the text file in Windows, or you can create the text file in the Unix format, which the end of line will be a little bit different between the Windows, like a program, if you use a Notepad++ or some other Windows program. So you need to watch out the end of line characters in some ways, in certain times. And the useful command will be the cat command to see the end of line characters. But in this program, probably it doesn't matter much, because it can probably handle without dealing with those end of line characters. We talked about the CR and LF. Those the Windows end of line character, and LF is just a typical Unix format. But we don't know which type without looking at it. But anyway, this is a regular, assuming this is just a regular text file. Just to open it, you just have to do this using the method open, and you can save this to some sort of variable name. So this one is a read, and then what's a RT? R is read, and the file format will be the text, which is the default. So if you just default, which is, if you don't specify, it's gonna read anyway. Okay, so default will be this. It says default is a read write. So you can specifically say read T, or just do this. Okay, default means automatic. Just okay. So reading, so like I said, that was F equals open, and then the file name. All you have to do is remember that. Okay, now that's for the read. Okay, now so we did that. Now to specify, like in the Windows environment, sometimes we have to specify the path. So this is usually the scheme 2 backslashes. If you have a drive, we have to do that. That's the only thing that you have to pay attention. Write, in order to write, you have to say what? W, and if you want to append, you have to say A. Okay, and then what is this here? So this is if you this would be going back to here. So this is mode is open. Once you open it, you read, and that's how you. Now this is the first 5 characters. So the method is, you can go ahead and use the read method, like that, with a read method. So you need 2 places. You have to tell the system what kind of mode that you're using, and then after that you have to specifically mention the method. Okay, so here, going back here, so you can to the right, the second one, that will be the but before you use the write method, you need to tell the system, hey, I'm gonna write. Okay, so going down here, it's actually right here, right? So you tell the system that you're gonna write. Okay, now this is important because you cannot skip this step, because the default is read. To write, you have to mention that, and then you can use this method to write. Okay, yeah. So 2 step, mention that, and then to this. Okay, read, you can skip this part, the read, but for the write, you have to do that. Okay, so what does this program do? You're gonna write it, and then you're gonna read it. Okay, now which file? Same file, but same file, one is to read and then one is to write. Okay, so fairly simple. No big deal. All right, so only thing is, what about the create? Yeah, the create is to create a brand new file that will create it for you. What about the delete? Delete is to just go ahead and delete the file, obviously. So there's a command that you can use, the method that you can remove the folder if you want to delete it. Then you use a remove method, and also if you can even check whether the file exists or not, so you don't get in like error messages. Okay, so let's try this in the SIGWin. Okay, let's actually let's say we create a file, brand new file. Okay, and then what are we going to do? We're going to actually read the file and like add 2 numbers or something. Okay, so let's say nano my text.txt. I'm gonna put 2 numbers like a 10, 5. Okay, so how do you read this file in Python? Well, I can say Python Python this, and then go into line by line, one at a time, or I can write a Python program, scripting, Python script, right? So we're gonna say Python p2.py, let's say p2.py, and then what we do, we're gonna read the file, right? So once you read, you wanna save the content into let's say a variable, because once you read them, you want to save into a variable name, and then you want to do certain operation, right? So let's say like a variable, variable 1, okay, and then let's see what's saved into a variable 1. So we could say print and variable 1, right? So let's see what happens. So now I'm just gonna execute that, and then it print out the entire so it print out entire thing, into a, but that's not really good, right? We want to be able to read line by line, so that we can do an operation. Maybe it's under here, there's a read line right here. Okay, so read one line from, so what we can do here, let's go back here, say read the line. Okay, so we could go, okay, we like to variable dot read the line. Read the line. F dot read the line. F is the variable name. Okay, the open mode, the variable name, and then the F dot, the method is read the line. So that will print out the line. Now we can print out the line, but instead of that, we can save it into another variable name. So that we can go variable 1. Okay, so if I'm gonna execute again, read the line, print out var1. So what about the second one? Well, we can do it again. Read it one more time, and then save it to another variable name. So let's go ahead and print out, to make sure. Sometimes you just do one at a time. Now let's say we like to multiply these two strings. So what do we do? Well, since they are string, we cannot just multiply them. Okay, so now let's say we like to multiply what we just have read, two variables. Well, they are strings, so we cannot really multiply them. Okay, so what you have to do is, we know that just multiplication of variable 1, variable 2 times, it's not going to work. Because you can try it, but it's not going to work. Because they're going to be read as string. If you want to see, then you can actually try this way. Variable 1. And it's not gonna work. You're gonna find out that it's gonna give a problem because they're strings. So what we have to do, we can do a conversion, and we can say integer, right? say integer variable 3 equals maybe integer variable 1 times integer variable 2, and then we can print it out like let's say variable 3. Okay, so that way 5 times 10, right? Because it's read the first line, which was 5, I think. What was the text file name? myfile.txt. mytext.txt. So 510 times, that. So the types, data types are important when you do this stuff, when you read the files. Okay, so let's go back to this file operation in the reference, because that will give you a lot of stuff that you can do with when you use the file method. Close, yeah, you want to close sometimes. Read the lines, there's one line. If you want to multiple lines, change the position and all that stuff, truncate, the write method which we discussed, flush maybe, to flush out if you have something in the memory too much. Okay, so you know how to read and from the text files now. And let's say you like to write to the back. So we said write. So let's say you like to write to, write the content to, let's say, another file. Now this time I'm gonna write to new text file. It's called mytext1.txt, which means you need to create the file, right? Somehow first. So we went over the creating files, brand new one. What was what? X method, right? X. So you can do that. And then to write it, what do? We use f dot and the write method that way. So let's say we like to, once again, we like to write to the, instead of printing out, we like to write to this one. So to write it, we have to make sure we have this X, right? So we have to say, okay, that's good, but I'm gonna write it. Okay, now should you put it there or somewhere else? Well, maybe up to here is better. Maybe on the top, doesn't matter in this case that much. Now instead of printing out, we said what? Now it does make a difference, because this one is F and this one is F2. So let's say F1 maybe. Okay, now actually F does make a difference, but we didn't close out the file, so probably just changing the name would be better. Maybe. Now I'm gonna call it F1, and then we're gonna write to a file, which means how do you write to a file? F1 dot, write, and then variable 3. That will be variable 3. Instead of printing out, write to a file. Okay. And then we can just do the cat command to see if it's there. Now, once you create, so let's go back to create and the write. So creating was this. Now to create the file, if that's just to create. Now we need to write to a file. So that's just to create. So now once you create it, you write to a file, and this one is write. So we should do this actually. So that way we write to one is read, create, and one is to write. Okay. So actually it's like you create it first and then write to a file. Okay. You could change. I guess you could do F again. Yeah. Let's keep it simple. F dot, F dot, F dot. Okay. Because what happens is, this will become F again, this will become F again, so it's okay. So now I'm gonna execute it again, up arrow. Okay, and line 7, right must be string, not integer. Okay, now you cannot put the now you see the error message here. So it says argument must be string, not integer. Okay, so almost done, except that it has to be string. So we could do the same thing here, right? So we could do str. We could directly go str and then do this way. So be write to the string. Oh, but this time actually created a file, it gave a message. So it already created, you cannot double create it. So this time actually I'm gonna actually get this thing out, get rid of it. Okay, because you cannot create the same file twice. So that's done. So now we're gonna check the content of my text 1, and it has 50. Okay, so from this 510 we multiply the numbers. Okay, and then we actually wrote the thing to a new file. Of course you could write to the same file if you want to, but just I decided to just do with another file. Okay, now instead of doing that, you could actually save into another a variable if you want to. Let's say variable, maybe whatever name you like to choose, and then this would be same thing. Okay, this would be, now what's gonna happen when I do this? It's a write mode. Is it gonna write over it, or is it gonna append? Think about it. It's gonna append, or it's gonna brand new file and write over it. Now file is already there, but it's not append mode, it's a write mode. So unfortunately, things will be gone, and just, well, maybe not that unfortunate, but it will be gone and wrote it again. Okay. Now, if you wanna add at the bottom, you use append method. Okay. Okay. Now let's continue. Now, next thing I like to do is, let's say we have a problem like this. Let's say we have a text file, and I'm gonna create a text file like 3. Instead of 3, let's say just text1.txt. Okay. And let's say we like to multiply like 2 numbers together, but it's gonna look like this: some sort of last name and kind of data looking like that. Lee, John, 7, something like that. And we like to, and these are separated by a space, or you could say comma or whatever. But we have a separator, and what we like to do is, for each person, we like to multiply this like a 2 times 4, 5 times 1, 2.1 times 6. Okay, so for each line we like to multiply these numbers. Okay, and then we like to print out as Kim 8, Lee 5, John 12.6, something like that. Okay, so for this problem we can read the line kind of similar way, but what's the problem? We have to actually put the variable name into this one, second one, and third one, like that. Okay, so we can use actually the method. There is a thing called a split. Okay, let's go back to the file operation, right? Where was that? Reference section that had the either the string method or the file method. We use this line, read the line, but let's look at the string method. Okay, and these are the stuff that you can do with a string, and the one that we can use is actually the split. Okay, so we didn't discuss that in detail, but split we could